unique looks mesmerized the world. Multiple Bob Dylan songs, as well as the Velvet Underground's Femme Fatale, was written about her. She was an icon in the 60s underground scene of New York. She was young and beautiful, and seemingly had the perfect life, even though deep down she was struggling with her mental health. In the 28 years of her tragically short-lived life, she became an icon beloved by millions. She is Edie Sedgwick, and this video is all about her. Hello and welcome everyone. So today's video is all about the wonderful and unique Edie Sedgwick. I'm going to show you how I created this makeup look inspired by her, and I'm also going to tell you a lot about her life. Not only about all the incredible and wonderful things she achieved, but also about her mental health and the struggles that she had all her life. And if you want to know more about this wonderful 60s icon, keep on watching. So Edie truly had beautiful, flawless skin. So what I did was just to apply some foundation and a little bit of concealer to just make sure that I have that porcelain kind of skin. So I'm gonna start by taking this really bright, silvery, shimmery kind of color, and I'm gonna apply it all over my lid. And I'm even gonna take it up a little bit further than what I usually do, so kind of a bit more above my natural crease. So Edith Minturn Sedgwick was born on April 20th in 1943. Despite growing up in a really wealthy and well-known family, Edie's young life was troubled. Edie and her siblings were rigidly controlled by her parents. They were kind of kept isolated on their family's ranch. They weren't allowed to really go outside. They were homeschooled for the most part, and Edie just felt really isolated from the rest of the world. Within the years of social isolation, Edie developed an eating disorder. She kind of started adapting a pattern of binging and purging, and later on that kind of emerged more into a classic anorexic behavior. So in 1958, her parents enrolled her in St. Timothy's School in Maryland, but she was quickly taken out of that school because of her eating disorder. In the early 60s, 1962 and 1963, Edie was an inpatient in several mental facilities, where she received treatment for her eating disorder. When she left the hospital in 1962, Edie is said to have had a relationship with a Harvard student and even got pregnant by him. However, she had an abortion, citing her personal and mental issues. So next up we're gonna do her classic cut crease. Edie was wearing a lot of bold looks, but they were mainly all focusing on a really thick black cut crease. I feel like the most notable thing about her cut crease is that, contrary to Twiggy and a lot of other 60s muses, instead of drawing her cut crease down in the end, she kind of winged it out a little bit more, and I'm gonna show you how I do that now. So I'm gonna use this brush, which I think is actually a lip brush, but it's just a flat, tiny brush. I'm gonna go in with black eyeshadow. Now my advice here is to be really light on the black eyeshadow. You can always go in with more, but just to make sure that you don't get a lot of fallout, I would recommend you to go in with a very little amount at the beginning. And now I'm doing what I pretty much always do, is to really foreshadow what I want to do and to make sure that I don't mess up the shape that I want. So I'm gonna start on the inner corner of my eye, drawing it up, and then kind of out in the end. So this is the shape that I'm going for. I'm actually kind of going by this picture of her, and I feel like the shape is kind of really accurate like this. So I really like the shape like this. As you can see, she's really much kind of even taking it up in the end and kind of moving it a lot closer to her eyebrow, which I really like. And now that I feel like the shape is kind of right, I'm just gonna fill it in with black eyeshadow. So her cut crease was really thick and dark, and so I'll just keep applying more and more eyeshadow until I reach that really deep and rich look. She also took it out quite far, so I'm just making sure that I have a nice ending. I really like how this side is looking, and now I'm just gonna do the exact same thing on the other eye. So I really like how this is looking so far, and so next up I'm gonna work on my lower lash line. Basically, instead of only contouring her lower lash line around her eye, she even take it a little further and kind of winged it out in the end. And I'm gonna show you how I do that now. I'm just gonna make sure that I use a really small amount of eyeshadow and have a really light hand. And then starting here, just gonna carefully out all the way. And then I'm working in more and more product because she wore a lot of really heavy black makeup and I want to achieve exactly that look. And in the end, I'm just gonna take it out like so. I'm gonna make sure to take it up all the way right here to really make sure the entire bottom half of my eye is black. And now there's another really unique thing that she did, which basically is taking the eyeliner on the lower lash line and drawing another line kind of facing out more outwards on the inner corner of her eye. Using a little bit of black eyeshadow, I'm just gonna try that down here. So as you can see, the natural shape of the eye is to kind of go up a little right here, and what she did, she drew it down right there. So kind of really carefully gonna make sure that it blends in nicely with this part. So before I continue on, let me tell you a little bit more about Edie's life. Edie was deeply affected by the deaths of her two brothers, Francis and Robert, who passed within 18 months from each other. Francis, who was also suffering from mental issues, took his own life, while her brother Robert, who was also diagnosed with some mental disorders, crashed his motorcycle into a bus on New Year's Eve of 1965. Edie often said that her 21st birthday was the day that really changed her life. Her 21st birthday was April 20th in 1964. And it was the day that she received $80,000 US in trust funds from her maternal grandma. Those $80,000 allowed her to relocate to New York, where she soon started to proceed building a modeling career. So next up, I'm going to use this really tiny brush, and I'm going to apply some of the bright silver sparkly eyeshadow right between these two lines to kind of really open up the eye there. So in March 1965, Edie met avant-garde filmmaker Andy Warhol and soon started visiting the Factory, his art studio in Midtown Manhattan, regularly. During one of Edie's visits, Andy Warhol was filming Vinyl, his interpretation of Anthony Burgess's A Clockwork Orange. Despite the all-male cast of Vinyl, Andy Warhol decided that Edie should be part of the movie. Soon after, Edie had also a small part in his film Horse, which actually landed her the starring role in one of his next movies. Those films, called Poor Little Rich Girl, were actually conceived as a series, and Edie was starring in the leading role in all of them. So Andy Warhol's films were really unique and different from what you usually saw, and those movies pretty much only showed Edie at home doing her daily routines or laying on a bed in her underwear. So next up, I'm gonna use eyeliner. She really wore a pretty thick eyeliner, and I'm just gonna wing it out in the end. And as you can see, you already got the line from the eyeliner from what we did to the lower lash line. So while winging this out, I'm just gonna wing it out a tiny bit above the line that I already created. So Andy Warhol's films, for the most part, were only shown in independent movie theaters and underground cinemas. Despite that, Edie began receiving attention from the mainstream media. During this time, she developed her distinct look, which is now mainly referred to as factory girl or factory fashion. She was wearing a lot of leotards and black tights. She was wearing super short mini dresses and mini skirts, and even shopped the kids section to make sure that her skirts were the shortest as possible. She wore large chandelier earrings and a heavy black makeup look like the one that I'm creating today. Edie had also cut her natural brown hair to a really short pixie cut and used silver spray to match it to Andy Warhol's hair. Warhol called Edie his superstar, and this is kind of where the term superstar was first used for a single person who wasn't a rock star or like a famous actress, but it was kind of more about her person than her work. And Edie Sedgwick and Andy Warhol continued making movies together. So next I'm gonna go in with this brush one more time and I'm gonna draw on tiny little twiggy lashes. So from what I can tell in the picture, she didn't really have a lot of them, but she did some, and they were mainly on the outer corner of her eye. So that is what I'm focusing on today. I'm only gonna do like 3 or 4 maybe, but I also already do have this one, so I'm just gonna work with that. For the twiggy lashes, I'm using black eyeshadow and I'm just using a very, very light hand. So from the pictures that I saw, it didn't really look like Edie was wearing fake lashes. However, she had that really dramatic lash look. And what I'm doing to achieve that is to use 2 sorts of mascara. This one is like a mascara this one is like an eyelash primer, and this one is the actual mascara. But using those 2 products together really gives me that dramatic effect. So that's it for the eye makeup look, and now I'm gonna move on to the eyebrows. Even though the 60s were all about a very thin and plucked eyebrow, Edie decided to go with a completely different look. She had her natural eyebrows, they were pretty thick, and she even colored them in to make them appear darker. So I'm gonna use this little brush, and with this medium brown color, I'm just gonna fill in my eyebrows. I naturally have pretty thick eyebrows and I don't really plug them, but if you have thinner eyebrows, I would recommend you to kind of overline them a little bit to achieve that Edie look. By the late year of 1965, Edie and Andy kind of fell apart, and Edie demanded Andy not showing him in his films anymore. So after estranging with Andy Warhol's circle, Edie lived in the Chelsea Hotel, where she soon became close friends with Bob Dylan. There are rumors that Edie and Bob dated, however Bob Dylan always lamented those rumors. And it was during that time that Bob Dylan married his girlfriend Sarah Lawrence in secret. However, Edie's brother Jonathan claimed that Edie and Bob actually had an affair and that she was pregnant with his child, but was pressured into having an abortion. Even though Edie tried to continue her acting career, she was turned down for a lot of roles and wasn't really successful. During that time, Twiggy also became really famous and kind of took Edie's place for being the young, fun fashion influence. However, in 1967, Edie landed a part in the movie Ciao Manhattan and started filming. So now I'm just gonna use this comb to brush out my eyebrows. However, the movie Ciao Manhattan got suspended after Edie set her hotel room on fire and was brought into a hospital with minor burns, and also because of her mental state. At this point, Edie was severely anorexic and she was also doing a lot of drugs. Edie always had that really fun and young look, and to achieve that, I'm now gonna use some blush. I'm gonna apply it on my cheeks and a little bit on my nose. I'm going with a really pinky color to kind of go for that innocent look. A little up here and over there and on the nose. In summer of 1970, Edie met another patient at the Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital, and they fell in love and got married in 1971. However, after being released from the hospital, Edie relapsed. Last but not least, I'm using this lip enhancer, and I'm just gonna apply it on my lips. It's basically working great for that frosted lip look which Edie usually had going on. On the night of November 15th in 1971, Edie attended a fashion show. After the show, she went to a party where she started drinking, and soon after called her husband to pick her up. On the way home, they had a fight in the car, and Edie said that she had a lot of concerns about their marriage. However, when they got home, her husband put her into bed and made sure that she took her medicine. He recalled seeing Edie laying on the bed looking really, really bad, and he also said that her breath sounded horrible, and that it was sounding like there was a big hole in her lungs. When her husband woke up the next morning at 7:30, Edie was dead. She was only 28, and even though the final cause of her death couldn't really be determined, it was most likely her anorexic, alcoholic, and drug-addicted behavior. Her death shocked lots of people. She was so young, she seemed to have that perfect life, growing up in a rich family, being successful, but there were a lot of struggles. And even though she was an icon for the 60s underground scene, a lot of people forget about the tragic part of her life. I think it's important to not only remember her for her iconic looks and incredible makeup, but also to see the tragedy behind her short-lived life. To me, Edie is one of my biggest fashion inspirations, especially when it comes to factory fashion. She was really out there. She wasn't doing what everyone else was doing. She was wearing her makeup differently, wearing different clothes, and she was just being herself. To me, that is the most inspiring part about her. I'm gonna put up some shots now of the makeup and the outfit that I'm wearing. This is also a really Edie inspired look to just kind of show you the final result. I really hope you learned a little bit about Edie and her incredible looks and tragic life. If you enjoyed the video, I would love you to give it a thumbs up and maybe even share it with a friend. It supports the channel, it supports me, and it would mean a lot. Please comment down below who else you would like to see a makeup tutorial inspired by, and what do you think about the whole topic of someone having a life that seems so perfect but actually struggling with her mental health all her life. If you're interested in the 60s and 70s, the makeup, the fashion, the pop culture, the outfits, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I upload multiple videos every single week all about that, and I would love to have you around. I hope you have a wonderful day. Go out, enjoy the sunshine, take yourself some time to focus on you and your mental health today, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye guys!